It is that time of year, ladies and gentlemen, where you need to make predictions on the Premier League season and look stupid to the internet. Truth be told, I think it's going to be a very interesting season this year. 3 of the big 6 all have new managers to start the season. Will Arsenal build on their success of last year and maybe finally win that Champions League? How many positions are going to be open to qualify for Europe, because there are quite a lot last year? And will Tottenham finally go down? Let's not waste any time. Let's get into it. In 20th place, unfortunately, I'm going to put Hull City. The end of last year was a big success story for them. They just about scraped into the playoffs on the last day of the season, thanks to Wrexham completely screwing it up. And then you had the whole Southampton Spygate situation with them getting kicked out and Middlesbrough having about 4 or 5 days to prepare for the fact they were all of a sudden in the playoff final. That's not trying to give a big knock to Hull City, because obviously that was a very difficult period and they managed to come through and get promoted to the Premier League. But the reality is many didn't think they'd get promoted in general, so they're already punching above their weight. I'm doing a couple of signings, nothing too inspiring. I like the Morita one from Sporting. Again, it shows the power of the Premier League and the fact they were able to get a player that was winning league titles with Sporting a couple of years ago. But overall, I think they're in for a difficult jump, unfortunately, and they're going to go straight back down. In 19th place, I'm going to put Fulham. They lost their manager, who was quite consistently keeping them in the Premier League for a good few years. In that whole manager merry-go-round with him going to Benfica, Mourinho going to Real Madrid, and then Arbeloa going to Fulham. But I think my biggest concern for them is that the Real Madrid youngsters that they've signed over the summer really need to come good for them to do well this year. Losing Harry Wilson on a free to Leeds is a big problem for them. He contributed to about 36% of their total output with his goals and assists. And for a team that I don't think will do fantastically well, that's a lot of goals and assists to try and replicate. Overall, I think it's a transition year for them and it's come at the wrong time as well. In 18th place, I'm going to put Tottenham will be fine this year. In 18th place, it's going to be Crystal Palace. Definitely a surprise to some people watching, but you need to hear me out on this one. I think Crystal Palace have been a complete credit to the Premier League over the last couple of years. They won an FA Cup, the Conference League, as well as the Community Shield. They've had success that they truly deserve, and a big congratulations to them. But in the league last year, they actually really struggled. They only finished 15th, and they had one of the lowest output in terms of goals. In fact, it was the 3rd lowest output. They lost their manager in the summer, as well as a key centre-back that helped them win the trophies. And the incomings haven't been too inspiring either. Obviously, because they qualify for the middle tier of the UEFA competitions, it means they're playing at least 2 extra league games during the Europa League, which will end up coming about a time in December and January when it's going to be very intensive for them. Unfortunately, it's going to be a very difficult season for them, in my opinion, and I think because of the extra pressure, as well as losing some key parts of their team from winning the trophies, I see Crystal Palace going down this year. Sorry, guys. In 17th place, I'm going to put Ipswich Town. Again, I think it's going to surprise a lot of people putting them here because most think they're going to go straight back down again. But they've had that yo-yo experience already, so I think they're going to really try and establish themselves in the Premier League this year. Funnily enough, if I made these predictions in about June time, I'd have had them being a bit higher because of Kieran McKenna. But it's worth knowing they're spending a lot of money to try and establish themselves as a Premier League team going forward. I'm very curious to see how Maeda gets on in the Premier League now that he's joined from Celtic. He's been a big part of their success over the past few years. And I think the added effect of the managerial changes at both Fulham and Crystal Palace, it will have them stay up just about. Yes, I'm aware that Ipswich have also changed their manager, but I just think there's going to be a bit more of a tumultuous time for them compared to Ipswich. In the 16th place, I'm going to put Coventry City. I'm putting this down to what I call the Lampard tax. I did see a comparison on social media recently where people said that Lampard was a better manager than Carrick. I'm not here to debate that, but what I will say is that Lampard has had a lot more experience in the Premier League, so he kind of knows what he needs to do to survive. They have a strong net spend so far as well, which will certainly help. Bear in mind, they did what the Championship season last year, though that doesn't necessarily correlate to staying in the Premier League in future seasons. I think they'll do fine. They'll cause a few issues for some of the big teams at some points, especially at home. They have waited a long time to get back in the Premier League, and I'm pretty sure the fans will not go down without a fight. In 15th place, it's going to be Everton. Moisey gets a lot of criticism for his style of play, and obviously when he was manager of Man United, I don't think he was ever the right fit for us. But one thing's for sure, I think he keeps teams like West Ham and Everton pretty stable, so I don't see Everton getting anywhere near relegation trouble during the season. This whole McNeil and Brennan Johnson swap is a bit of a strange one as well. I would love to know what's going on there, to be honest. But in general, I think they're going to have an inoffensive year and they'll stay up with no issue. In 14th place, I'm going to put Nottingham Forest. I think Diomande is a fantastic signing. Me and my partner actually went to Sporting game last year when we were in Lisbon. And honestly, I thought he was one of their standout players. Glasner did struggle in the league last year with Palace, it is worth mentioning. But he won them 2 trophies in 2 years, so I think he deserves a bit of a pass on that one. They've got no European football this year, which will certainly help as well. Overall, I think Forest have managed to establish themselves as a Premier League once again after having many years out of the actual competition. And I don't see that changing anytime soon. In 13th place, I'm going to put Newcastle United. It's been a really messy summer for them this season. They've lost 3 key players as it currently stands. I don't think they're going to sell Lewis Hall to Man United at this given point because they've lost so many key players. But Bruno, Gordon, and Tonali have all been very important for them over the past few years. And whilst they're signing players to try and fill that void, the problem you've got is you need to put established players to replace established players. And I don't think they're doing that, unfortunately. Also, Eddie Howe leaving during pre-season was a bit ridiculous. If they were going to make that change, it should have happened at the start of the summer to try and prepare. It should not have happened after a pre-season game. Worth noting, there's still quite a lot of quality players at Newcastle United, so they won't be anywhere near relegation trouble, but at the same time, I think it's going to be a bit of a sort of transition year for them, really. In 12th place, I'm going to put Sunderland. I'm sure for Newcastle and Sunderland fans would be an interesting debating point. The problem for Sunderland is they've not had enough incoming so far this summer. They qualified for Europe, which people will argue they batted above their station, but when you're playing at least 8 extra games and you've not made enough signings, it's going to cause a massive problem for you over the season. Keeping hold of Xhaka was very important, but I think they're going to see a drop off from where they were last year, especially with a minimum of 8 extra games. 11th place will be Leeds United, who I wish I could put lower, but I think they'll be in for a fine season. Trafford is a very, very important pickup for them, and I think obviously signing Harry Wilson will also have a massive difference as well. Shame I can't put them any lower, but I think they'll be just fine, and I think they're going to have a really good game against United this year. In 10th place, I'm going to put Brentford. Many thought Brentford would fall off last year after they lost 2 key players as well as their manager, and they didn't. They've also had a few good pickups over the summer as well. I don't see them falling off anytime soon. I think in general, they're a very well-run club who deserve a lot of credit. Are they going to take the next step? I'm not sure based on who they've signed over the summer, but even so, I don't think they'll fall off. Considering everybody thought they would last year, I think the club deserve a lot of credit. In 9th place, I'm going to put Bournemouth. I'm very curious to see how they adapt to a new manager as well as European football for the first time. Antonio Silva is a very interesting signing because a few seasons ago, people were trying to quote him being over 100 million. Okay, maybe not that much, but they were definitely quoting like 60, 70 million because he was a young player playing at Benfica. So getting him for like, 20 odd million is a really good deal. Worth noting, over this summer, Bournemouth haven't had their entire back line ripped from them by PSG, Real Madrid and Liverpool. So keeping the squad's very important, and they're going to have some key additions as well. The only reason I'm not predicting a jump for them is because European football is a lot to add onto your plate. I hope they do well, of course, because English teams doing well in European football is very, very important for the league. Unless it's Leeds, Liverpool or City, in which case I hope they don't. So let's see how they get on. Hopefully they do well, but I don't see them making a bigger jump because of the additional games. But they're another well-run side, and I think they'll do fine even with the change of manager. In 8th place, I'm going to put Brighton. Honestly, as a team, Brighton just go from strength to strength, and I'm predicting for a 3rd consecutive 8th place finish for them. This is where all the additional places for Europe really matters. It means that Brighton are going to play in the Europa Conference League, and they'll see the effects that it had on Crystal Palace last year and really want to try and push on for it. Should be a good chance for them. Looking at the teams in the actual field, I always feel like the Premier League teams have a better opportunity to win the Conference League than any other trophy. Sunderland, Bournemouth and Crystal Palace will have to contend with AC Milan and Juventus, whereas the field for the Conference League is a little bit weaker, so therefore Brighton could be a really good chance of trying to win their trophy. Regardless, I see them doing well in the league. They are always a very well-run club, even with losing someone like Danny Welbeck. 7th place, I'm going to put Aston Villa. I'm sorry, they were fantastic last year, again winning the Europa League, but losing Rodgers, Tielemans and Digne over the summer will really not help them. They're also competing in the Champions League, which is very intensive. And this is nothing down to the manager. I think Emery is a fantastic manager, but I think the top end of the league is going to be very, very competitive this year, so I see them dropping off just a little bit. Still, I shouldn't really write off Emery. He had a fantastic year and has been a great coach, but I've got to put them somewhere. I'm very sorry. In 6th place, I'm going to put Tottenham Hotspur. They are the big spenders of this summer, and anywhere other than getting European football will be a failure for them. When you're signing players for 85 million and 92 million, obviously you need to have high expectations. I think the Bant's era for Tottenham is now over. They're not going to finish in 17th anytime soon now. Plus, they have no European football this season either, so that should certainly benefit them with the certain amount of games they're going to have. To be honest, I think even 6 is lowballing where they need to aim for, just because of the amount of money they've spent. In 5th place, regrettably, I'm going to put Manchester United. My problem with Man United spending this summer is not that they're not spending big fees or anything. It's the proactiveness. You need to be proactive in the market and start earlier to try and get everything done as fast as possible. They're heavily linked with Lewis Hall, for example, but Newcastle have lost 3 key players over the summer. Are they really going to want to lose a 4th? Especially someone touted as one of the best left-backs in the league. Tielemans and Santos are both good pickups. I was a little bit doubtful at first of Santos, but I kind of understand it now. But ultimately, they've not spent enough to try and take a next step, which I think is going to be a problem for them, unfortunately. Ultimately, for me, me, I think Carrick's actual aim this season should be to try and win a trophy. Solskjaer's problem when he was a club legend managing the actual team was that he wasn't winning any trophies. He got to a Europa League final and got beat on penalties. Ultimately, because Solskjaer wasn't winning trophies, that's why people eventually turned on him. So I think Carrick's aim this year more than anything should be to win one trophy at a minimum. Be it a League Cup, an FA Cup, a Champions League, or a Premier League. He's in 4 competitions this season, and that should be his ultimate aim. Because if he can get a top 5 or 4 finish and also win a trophy, I think he'll put himself in a good position to stay as Manchester United manager for longer. I mean, obviously United should be aiming to try and win the Premier League and Champions League, but a trophy is important for him going forward. In 4th place, I'm going to put Liverpool. I get pre-season is pre-season, but your new manager turning around and basically saying you can only play 30 minutes of his style of play is a bit of a worrying statement. Last year was a bit of a disaster by their standards of the past 5 or 6 years. They've been consistent title challengers and even going for Champions League, so to be where they were last year was a bit of a problem. But luckily, they still got Champions League football. I think ultimately this year is a transition year for Liverpool. They'll do well once the manager's style of play starts to take in place, bearing in mind he was the one that got Bournemouth into the Europa League last year. But I don't see them competing for the Premier League this year. In 3rd place, I'm going to put Manchester City. So I'm going to be completely honest, I'm quite lucky that I'm doing this prediction and recording it after the Community Shield, because when I was trying to draft what I think is going to be the actual league table this year, I was originally putting City in 1st. I know the Community Shield is traditionally seen as a friendly in this country, A, because it's played under friendly rules, and B, because we don't call it a Super Cup. But wow, that was dreadful. That was one of the worst performances I've seen from them in a good few years. And then they've lost Rodri as well. Bear in mind that also happened after the Community Shield. I think they're in for a bit of trouble this year, though they do have Haaland up front. It's worth noting that having a 25-30 goal a season striker will always be a key difference for a team. How many strikers have existed in the Premier League in the last 10 years that have scored 25 plus goals consistently? Players like Salah have scored consistently over a certain amount, but other than Haaland, there really isn't any. So even in a transition season, having him up front would be a key difference, so they'll still finish 3rd in my opinion. But watching that Community Shield, oh boy, that was dreadful. That was really bad. In 2nd place, I'm going to put Chelsea. I'm going to hold my hands up and say I'm actually someone who's very high on Xabi Alonso's stock. I watched quite a few games over Bayer Leverkusen's season when he went undefeated in the league. And heck, they nearly went undefeated all year if Lookman didn't have one of the best performances in the Europa League final I've ever seen. He had a bit of a problematic time at Real Madrid, but a lot of managers do run into that, unfortunately. And it's worth noting that Chelsea do not have any European football this year. So he's going to get a free run in terms of training to be able to get that Chelsea team playing the style of football that he wants. And just because he had a bit of a problematic time at Real Madrid does not mean he's going to run into the same problems at Chelsea. So it may be a surprise to a lot of people to put Chelsea this high, but I think they'll do quite well. And ultimately, I think they'll finish 2nd. And 1st this year will be Arsenal. Arsenal are a very strong team, bearing in mind they were literally 2 penalty kicks away from doing a double and winning the Champions League for the first time in their history. Again, mentioning that I'm recording this after the Community Shield, I had them finishing 3rd because of some injuries that they had over the summer. Declan Rice didn't look fit, Saka didn't look fit, Saliba went down. They'd be some key losses, but looking at them in the Community Shield, I don't see them having a problem. I think once they get through the first month or 2 of the season and everyone's back to being fully fit, they'll be just fine, and I think they'll probably comfortably walk the league this year. I don't know. Unless Xabi Alonso all of a sudden pulls out a league win for Chelsea. It's Arsenal's league to lose this year, and I think they'll do just fine. And that's my predictions for the season, guys. Make sure to bookmark it to come back when I'm completely wrong. I want to hear what your prediction is going to be this year. Who's going to win the league? Who's going to qualify for the Champions League? Who's going to get relegated? And who's going to be the top scorer? Make sure to comment down below. Make sure to like and subscribe as it really helps out the channel. And make sure to stay tuned for more content.